Hi, my name's Katrin and I'm currently a third year student doing speech and language therapy at Queen Margaret University. I also happen to be part of the Christian unions there, and this week the Christian unions across the whole of Edinburgh have come together to put on a whole week of online events entitled HOPE 2021. As part of this week, we're going to be putting on a series of small talks that just look at the big questions of life and Christianity. And today's question, we'll be looking at the God question. So, if there is a God, why should I care? And today's question will be answered by Ash Cunningham, who used to work with students across the whole of the UK and is now working in a church down in the south of England.
At the beginning of 2021, the world was given a much needed treat. After lockdown after lockdown, after months and months of anxiety watching reruns on TV and between baking batches of banana bread, we were finally given never before seen footage from the American office, in which Jim tries to persuade Dwight that the Matrix is real, and Dwight's been invited to join the fight. The prank, however, falls flat on its face, and Jim has to send away the 30 people he's hired to help with it, when Dwight, at the crucial moment, is offered a red pill or a blue pill. That is, the red pill that will enable him to join the struggle against machines, and the blue pill that will cause him to forget about it all and go back to his life. Dwight asks for the blue pill. And when you hear his reasons, they're reasonable. He says, well, I'm about to get married, I've just got a promotion, and the farm's going well. I don't care if it's not technically true. That's the life that I want to live. And I wonder if there's something of that hiding in the background of the question that I've been asked to give you just a brief introduction to an answer on today. If there is a God, why should I care? This God who's never made himself known to me, why should I give up anything from my life in order to examine who he is, let alone to follow him? I'll just take the blue pill. I'll stick to the life that I know. And so we're going to look at this question very briefly in three different ways, just by putting the emphasis on different words throughout. So firstly, why should I care? Is there a moral obligation to this? Is there a right and wrong to it? And I'm not going to spend long at all on it. I'm just going to give this one brief illustration, and you can take your questions to your mates. The illustration I'm going to give is that of cultural appropriation. Now, I'm aware that's a loaded term, but at its base, what it refers to is when you take something from another culture, empty it of all its meaning, and then impose your own, often quite trite meaning onto it. Sometimes it's done in innocent ignorance, sometimes out of a malicious attempt to dominate another culture. But either way, it's an ugly thing when you see someone take African American slave songs and turn them into drinking game songs, or the honor-bestowing headdress of Native Americans and turning it into sexy Halloween get-up. Cultural appropriation empties things of meaning and fills them with new, trite meanings. And whatever you're thinking about all of that, what it reminds us of is that creators have rights over the things that they've made. So actually, yes, I do think there is a moral element to this. If there is a God, then it is both moral and commonsensical, if that's a phrase, to look to him for guidance on how we should live in this world that he's made and that he's put us in. You can send your questions to the Christian Union on that, if that's not convinced you. Okay, so secondly, why should I care? Why should I put any emotional energy, which we're all at a huge deficit of right now, into thinking through a potentially life-altering claim about God? And actually, in one of the biographies of Jesus found in the Bible, in the book of John, Jesus meets a woman who essentially asks this very question. We only have time to skim through it, but there'll be details later about how you could read through one of the Gospels with a member of the Christian Union. But let me just tell you the story real quick. John starts by saying Jesus had to travel through Samaria And I know that this probably isn't your main hang-up with the Bible, but Jesus definitely didn't have to travel through Samaria. It makes no sense. No Jew would ever travel through Samaria because they hated the Samaritans and wouldn't mix with them. Anyway, we'll come back to that, but Jesus didn't have to go through Samaria. Anyway, while he's there, Jesus bumps into a woman who's collecting water at the well in the middle of the day. And I don't know if you know a lot about the Middle East, but it's hot in the middle of the day, so you don't go to lug water around unless you really, really want to be avoiding bumping into people. And it turns out that she wants to avoid bumping into people because she is the shame of her society. Because she's been married 5 times and the current man she's with isn't even her husband. And it's important for us to realise when we read through these stories that they're not living in the same culture that we are. This isn't a woman who just doesn't know how to settle down. She wouldn't have had the rights to divorce people of her own accord. She's been passed around from man to man, treated abysmally, and the current man she's with won't even give her the protective rights of marriage. This is a woman in dire straits. And so no wonder she's a bit standoffish with Jesus when he comes up to her in the story and says, I will give you the water that wells up to eternal life. Well, she's been promised the moon by men before. And here's this new man offering her eternal life. And so that's why she says, sure, give me this water of eternal life so I don't have to keep coming back here. I think she perfectly captures the mood, perhaps, of many students who might be looking over the fence at Christianity. On the one hand, utter derision. What total nonsense. But on the other hand, what if though? She doesn't want to be taken in, but she can't miss out. So she plays it cool. She sarcastically asks for what she desperately wants. She's going through exactly the same thing that my best man insists Carly Rae Jepsen has been trying to communicate to us throughout her past 5 albums. All the way back in 2011, Call Me, Maybe. 2016, You Can Stay the Night If You Want To. Right up to 2019, You Wanted Me Because There's No One Else to Kiss. That, yes, this is what I want, but play it cool, play it safe. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I could be known and loved? Known and loved by the God who made me. It's a heck of a good story. But if I get too close to it, it'll just be another lie. Known and loved. That's the dream, isn't it? Never happened for this woman. She's been loved, then ditched once she was known by 5 different men. On the flip side, she's been known by the town and rejected for who they knew her to be. So she oscillates between desperately wanting the happiness she's always searched for and desperately wanting to avoid becoming a sucker for a 7th time. And so she, like us, like Carly Rae, oscillates. She comes near and draws back. We find ourselves being trapped in an orbit almost around that true joy that we desperately want but don't trust to be real. That amazing good news. And there's only one solution to that when that happens, isn't there? When you're trapped in orbit around something. When you're trapped in orbit around goodness. That goodness has to make the first move. So you see, Jesus had to go through Samaria. Not because of geography, but because the woman was there. And he wanted to offer her eternal life. Jesus had to come to earth because that's where you are. And he wants to offer you eternal life. And so the real emphasis on the question for you perhaps is, why should I care? Well, the answer is just that. Because Jesus came for you to offer you eternal life. And I think you could well spend this week looking at maybe if there's anything to his claim.
Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that video, and if you found it interesting and you want to find out a little bit more, there are 2 ways that you can do so. Down in the description of this video there should be 2 links. The first link will take you to a series of resources that you can look at in your own time that will just discover in more depth about this topic. The second link will take you to a Google form, which you can fill in, and that will get you in contact with a member of the Christian Union at your own university, and they'll get in contact with you, and then you can ask any questions you might have. You can discuss anything you might want to discuss with them. So feel free to use that link as well. So that's how you can find out more. Thank you.